parcel out the work for the junior engineer to finish. Okay? So as you go, actually you move up from solution this way, more into design and specification. So product managers and software architects. Okay? At this moment, you are basically struggling to get in a job in this domain. Okay? All right. So we have a class website which we have all the slides available to you, and this is also the place we'll have all the homeworks for you. So do check the website. You got all my information. So I kind of get away with doing regular office hour because nobody shows up, and they all want to come at their own time. So I basically say, okay, if you want to talk to me before the class, after class, good time. Since you're already here, or you really need a big chunk of time, you can send me email, then we can figure out the time. Okay. Certainly, I'm here most of the time. So if you really have a burning question you cannot get away with, I mean, knocking on my door wouldn't be a problem, unless I'm in a phone call or meeting with somebody else. All right. So right now, our prerequisite is pretty straightforward. I think most of you guys, I mean, all of you guys should have already satisfied this prerequisite. But the key thing is you should be comfortable with programming now. Comfortable really means that, okay, if I give you a clear defined problem that's only take 50, 60 line of code, 100 line of code, you should be saying, oh, yeah, I have my own way of doing this. I'm just going to get it done. That's actually going to be our quizzes. Okay? It's just going to require you 10 lines of code, 20 lines of code, at most 30 lines of code, this whiteboard worth of code, then you go get it done. We'll see the first question today. Okay? Class meeting time, not a problem. You're here anyway, so that's not a problem. Okay. Our textbook in software engineering basically become obsolete the day they publish, right? Or even before they got published, right? So we have a textbook mainly for your reference, okay? I'm not going to require you to remember everything from the textbook. It's impossible and also useless. So what I want you guys to remember are the key things we need to carry out the 5 tasks as software engineers. Okay, we'll mention those things later. With respect to grading, we have basically 3 major components. We'll have an exam on our last class day. So basically, we'll have a major project in this class. So we are not going to have finals into the final week. We'll hopefully get this class wrapped up before finals week, so you guys can spend time with other classes. Mainly because we have a project. That exam is 40%. Going to be fairly simple and straightforward. You shouldn't see any surprises. We'll talk about these things many times. This mainly to be able to articulate the most fundamental concept in software engineering. For instance, what is design? What is implementation? What is testing? What are their purposes and so forth? Can write some code, right? Demonstrate you can write some code. Can figure out a few test cases. And so that's going to be in the test. The term project is our main thing. Okay? Term project is our main work. Actually, you're going to spend quite a bit of time on this individually. At this time, during when you guys come to 300, I don't think group programming project is very beneficial to all of you, because once you get to group project, then yeah, this guy program a little bit more, that guy program a little bit less. I mean, who contributed what, and got really messy, right? And by the way, you guys, each one of you have to have this skill. So we better have you do the whole thing from beginning to end. Okay? So we will start basically next Thursday. You'll get your specification. Then we'll have a few milestones. for you to deliver certain things, which is very important in software engineering. Okay? At work, in software engineering, you will have deadlines. By a certain time, you have to deliver certain things, otherwise your management will be really unhappy. Okay? So we are going to be basically be rigid on these deadlines for you to be able to form a habit of deliver things on time. Okay? If you cannot deliver things on time, what do? You trim features. You deliver what you can deliver before the deadline. Okay? You have to finish things you can finish, not trying to finish everything, but not finishing anything. Right? So that we set up due dates for you guys to form a habit of being able to deliver things on time. Okay? So we'll have a few things due here. Requirement document, design document, test plan, and the project report. Final deliverables are essentially the code. You'll be coding. Okay? However, at the same time, we'll ask you to write a sequence of documentation. You may say, oh, I'm here to code. I'm not here to write any documentation. Do you know the value of documentation? What is the value of documentation at all? Go ahead.
So I can go back to my code next week or next month and actually understand what I was doing in every place?
Exactly. That's one thing. You have to, so we think, everybody think so here probably think, oh, okay, yeah. Next month I still remember my code. No. Actually, next week you may not even remember your code. If I strip out all the comments you have in your code, and I got some code from last term and show that to you, you'll say, oh, what a piece of shit. Okay, right? But that's probably your code. We forget about code so quickly, right? I mean, documentation is one way for you to come back to it and say, okay, this is how I designed, how I write down this specification. I understanding of what the customer wants, and I understand this is how I design things. This is the way the algorithm actually put in the code. This is how I debug the code. Okay? For you to understand. That's number one. What is number two? Other people need to take a look, right?
You might at some point be in a position to delegate.
Exactly. Exactly. So you are not going to just work by yourself in software engineering. Very few people does that. There are people doing that, but very few people actually do that. Most of you guys will have to work in a team, right? You have to delegate. You have to receive documents from somebody else, receive tasks from somebody else. The purpose of writing this documentation is to write clearly enough so that you can give it to somebody else, and that person doesn't have to come to you to ask questions. Okay, that will be our criteria, okay? When you write down a piece of documentation, we're not going to say, oh, 10 pages, 5 paragraphs, like in middle school or high school, right? No, we're not going to say that. You know what? One objective way for me to say whether your documentation is acceptable or not is actually take your documentation and give it to her and say, you tell me it's understandable or not. You may say, oh, she's really biased, right? She doesn't like me and she's really biased, right? So, oh, that's not a problem. I'll give that to him. He will say whether it's or not. You may say, oh, he is also very biased. I'm going to give it to him. A strike, 3 strikes, you're out. It basically, if you are saying three people cannot understand my documentation, they're all, they don't like me, nobody like me, that kind of thing, yeah, that's not going to fly, okay? So essentially, our criteria is fairly straightforward, okay? If you think that you give your specification to somebody else, that person doesn't have to come back to you and can actually carry it out to the next stage, you're golden. Okay? If you write your requirement document and another person can take your requirement document and come up with a design with no hiccup, okay? Which means that you have produced a great piece of documentation. what your manager want to see and your company want to see, your collaborator want to see. If you can take somebody else's design document and start to implement a program, that program actually implement the requirement, wonderful. That's actually the best outcome we would like to see. Okay? You know, this never actually happened in industry, and you will always talk to each other. Okay? Many times because the amount of work you have to do to make it 100% self-contained is difficult. That's true for the product they are building in industry because it's so big. Our program is so small. You should be able to do this job for the size of product we have. Basically, which indicate you can work independently on a module level so that you can be the first-line soldier in a software company to take a small task and carry away. Okay? So that will be our, so how we grade you? Well, basically say, if you are not there anymore, can somebody else take this over and do the next task? Okay? From requirement documentation to design document to test plan and to your code, that's it. Okay, that exactly reflects what people expect from you when you, RCG, fresh graduate, join your team. Okay? Then they can come to you and say, here's the piece of code. Here's the test plan. Go test it out according to the plan. That's probably going to be your first job anyway. Then you say, oh, you can do that job? Good. Here is a small requirement, a piece of code, a small requirement, and go add this feature to the code without breaking the code. Okay? You can ask questions, but mainly you go from here. You go from what available documentation you have. Right? Are we clear? The requirement. Okay? So if we have a disagreement on design document, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to hand your document to somebody else in your class, remove your name, and ask them whether they give you the pass or not. Okay? Then, very simple for us. Homework, we'll have 3 homework that will account for 15%. Those homework is basically our way to get you prepared for our exams. Okay, so all the sample problem will come from there on your project, so you'll have seen no surprises. So I mentioned class participation. There will be the pop-up quizzes. I see you finish up all the quizzes, then you're here, still participating in the class. Otherwise, if you drop the class, I'll mark your dropping date as the last quiz you participated. Okay, all right. So for homework, so we have a deadline as well on the due day on basically when you come to class. So we do have a late policy, which is you're flexible to use 3 days in those 3 assignments. You can say, oh, at the beginning of the term, I'm flush with time, no problem, right? So I can finish all the assignment on time. I'm not going to use any late days. Or you can say, oh man, I just want to use 1 extra day for each assignment. That's fine. So you have this in your pocket so that if something comes up, you have to turn the homework in late. You have buffer for it. Okay.
Do you have to use the entire day at once, or is it 72 hours?
No, it's actually if you claim a day, it's a day.
Okay.
Yeah. Even if you spend 1 extra minute, it's going to be a day, right? No, I'm not going to be that tight, but basically, yeah, if you use a day, you use a day. Yeah. Collaboration policy, you are very much encouraged to collaborate on your homework. Okay, but you have to write down the homework yourself because this is your preparation for the test. The test is going to be closed book, closed notes. The test actually, when you come to test, the only thing you have is a pen, pencil, and eraser. That's all you have. Okay? So that's why we encourage you to collaborate here to learn. So that in this way, most of you guys will actually receive the credit for the homework anyway, right? Good buffer for you. And also at the same time, you you can you can practice all these possible questions in our exam. Okay.
Is 12 p.m. noon or midnight? I can
Noon.
never remember.
Noon. Basically, when you come to class, you should have already submitted your homework, or by the time you come to give me a paper copy, that's both work. Go ahead.
Is the exam going to be like an open format, so open questions?
No. It's going to be, open question in what sense for you?
Well, you ask a question and you write down all of the information, so it's not multiple choice.
Not a multiple
Okay.
choice. It's a written answer. So you will see basically a coding question. You will see testing, how you figure out test cases. You will see design question. You will see requirement questions. Yeah, those are open questions, basically written questions, not multiple choices. Yeah, good question. Go ahead.
For the homework, you're saying it's a Word format. I'm saying it's a PDF.
Oh, basically PDF Word. So basically some machine readable format. So mainly that is for us to archive. Okay. So now everything is digital. I don't want to go scan your homework. Basically that's my trick. So most of my graders they love to have a paper copy because they can easily grade. I mean, the electronic copy are not easy to grade. But for me, I need an electronic copy for basically for archive purposes. And so if you have, whenever something comes up, I can always go back to that particular one. Yeah, good question. So some time ago, we do have to scan all the homework into PDF and archive those, especially for undergraduate classes. We just passed that ABAC accreditation. For that, we have to archive a lot of your work, right? So if we don't have the electronic copy, we basically have to have our front desk people to scan all your homework into PDF format so we can archive, which is a lot of work for them at that point. It's also no record for you either. So I think this will be better for everybody. Any other questions? Go ahead.
When are you going to give us the project for?
Hmm?
When are we going to start the project?
Project start next Thursday. You'll receive the project specification next Thursday. Yes. So some more information about the project. The project is going to be individual project, as I mentioned already. So it's going to be a coding project. You're going to write code. Actually, we are going to ask you to code in Java in this class. Okay? Because you can't graduate without knowing Java. Right? So if you are, so we will give you at least a baseline in Java. Okay? So I mean, learning Java would not be a roadblock for the project we have. Our project is simple enough that you should, I mean, the amount of time you spend learning Java should be a small portion of your project. And also, kind of, we are sort of nudging you toward knowing at least some portion of Java, because it's such a dominating language now. I mean, not knowing it would be a disadvantage. I mean, so I know that you guys are always overloaded with work, all kinds of work, right? Learning Java can always be something that you can delay for future, but which will be a disadvantage if you don't have Java on your resume when you graduate. So that's why I kind of like to nudge you guys toward using some level of Java. If you can finish with my project, actually, I think you can comfortably put it on your resume and say, oh, I coded in Java before. This is not like you read hello world in Java and that's it. And if you put that on your resume, you are in trouble, right? But this is really you coded 1,000 line of code, 2,000 line of code in Java. Yeah, I think you should be able to answer quite a few questions on that level. Okay, but learning Java shouldn't be a roadblock for your project, and I think so the amount of Java you will learn is actually fairly limited. We're not going to ask you to learn fancy frameworks in Java, which you have tons of them. You can learn That's not our focus. We are basically going to focus on basic Java. Okay, the core Java stuff. All right? All right, so quick look at our schedule. This week, we're not going to do anything fancy. We're just going to have our introduction because the class is not stabilized yet. People come and go. I don't want to leave somebody out. That start a project this week will be unfair for people who might join later. But starting next week, that's when we are going to kick in all the real work. For instance, next week we're going to talk about what kind of tool you're expected to use in our class. Certainly, very simple. You're going to be able to use IDE. I hope everybody knows what IDE is. Basically, your programming environment. Everybody is required to use a repository, which is basically GitHub. Okay. Actually, these are the two things our local employers have on their demand sheet. They're in our survey. Number one is IDE, number two is GitHub. Okay, if you don't have those on your resume, you are at a huge disadvantage. Go ahead.
Is there a particular IDE we have to use?
No, we don't demand you to use a particular IDE for Java. You can pick your own. That's you're actually encouraged to pick your own, but we are going to ask you to use GitHub. Okay, GitHub basically is the most representative repository version control tool out there. Having that skill set is going to be very well received and very helpful for you as well. I mean, you can't really do a real world programming project without using a real version control tool. I mean, programming via email, that should end by this class. Okay? The repository by email, by copying around your code, should end by this class. Okay, from now on, whenever I see you in any other class, you should be safekeeping your code